Welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast, where Dr. Lucille and Lynn will tackle your most difficult and intimate questions with candor, tough love, and a little dash of humor. In today's episode,
and what if I get stuck in the Middle East, in the middle of the war, and I can't get back home? So we imagined every kind of scenario, anything that could go wrong.
I agree with you. I would want to be always creating something, striving for something, doing something that gave me joy, taking chances. And if you're not even allowed to do that, like that's also, I mean, you can have all the riches and that's fabulous. But if you don't have the freedom to pursue your happiness, or to develop yourself, I mean, what's it all worth, right?
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 35 of the Rewilded Human podcast. And I'm Dr. Lucille. This is my beautiful and wise co-host, Lynn. And today we have a special treat because on the spur of the moment, I decided I was going to put Lynn on the hot seat because she has had an amazing adventure recently. And for all of you out there who think, I just can't overcome my fears, I've got these big fears and I cannot overcome them. Well, we're going to show you a different story because Lynn's adventure recently was all about her consciously deciding that she was going to overcome some fears in a big, big way. Let's take it away. And I'm going to start grilling you, Lynn.
I'm ready. You're gonna bring it on.
And you're going to teach us how to overcome our fears, okay?
I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. Absolutely.
You're going to do fabulous. So, Lynn, tell us where you were over the previous few weeks. Tell us where you went.
I was in Qatar and in Doha, Qatar, and all around Doha. It was a very, very interesting adventure. And ultimately, I had an epiphany before I went on the trip. And my epiphany was that I am more afraid of not living than of dying. And this was very profound. I have so many fears. I have fears of flying. I have fears of traveling alone. I have fears of living or sitting in a restaurant by myself and eating, or staying in a hotel by myself. You know, all of these things. I never really traveled by myself. I've traveled like to go visit family or on business and things like that, but not on a vacation. So this started out with having to go to New Zealand, possibly to deal with some old issues that we had going there. And I asked my son to come with me. He said, yes, of course, but he wanted to bring his girlfriend. I said, great, let's all go. And then I was looking for places to stay halfway in between, to stay for a couple of days, because I'm in Europe and to fly to New Zealand is like 27 hours. It's like really far. So we wanted to stop halfway and then halfway on the way back. And it turned out we didn't need to go to New Zealand after all, but I was already looking at Qatar as a halfway point to, well, not really halfway, but a point to stop. And it was really enticing me because I've never been there, and just a different culture, different world. And because I've been to over 70 countries, but I've never been to Qatar. I'm like, what a great adventure that would be. So when my son and his girlfriend decided, no, we don't want to come with you. So I was stuck with either going by myself or not going at all. And I said, okay, screw it. I will go alone. So that's how it all started.
Excellent. Oh, great. So this epiphany came to you. Had you had something like that before, like an inner nudge that says, I want to live more? Have you had that before?
Yes, it happens. It's always this balance, because my greatest passion is traveling and my greatest fear is flying. And also like even being in a taxi or being in a car with someone else, because I'm a control freak when it comes to driving and a lot of other things, but we don't need to mention that. So like even with my husband, I'm always driving. With anyone else, I'm always driving. I don't let anyone drive. So to go to a foreign country and get in the car with, Uber drivers and taxi drivers and crazy drivers, that's a huge fear for me. And the plane, because I'm not the one flying the plane, so I have no control. I hate that feeling. So I've had this thing all the time. And then usually the part of me that wants the adventure and wants to travel, that part wins. But there's always this battle. And this time prepping for this trip, I have a friend who did hypnosis on me. So we did a hypnosis, and she also did a recording for me, which I was listening to for 30 days in preparation for the flight. And I was downloading different kinds of hypnosis, for fear of flying. I was listening to Michael Sealy. He's amazing. So every night I'd be listening to all this hypnosis, prepping me for the trip. And it was amazing. I felt ready. So on April 13th, I went to bed. I'm going to sleep like a baby. I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm off on my adventure. So around midnight, my son calls me. I'm like, okay, something's wrong if my phone's ringing at midnight. I jump out of bed. Mom, Iran is attacking Israel. World War III is starting. You can't go on your trip. And he's freaking out. So I wake my husband up. I'm like, okay, what do I do? And I know I can't cancel the next day because it has to be like 24 hours before. So I cancel my whole trip. I cancel everything. And, they were closing the airfields all over all these countries where I would be flying through. So I wouldn't even be able to get there. And what if I get stuck in the Middle East, in the middle of the war, and I can't get back home? So we imagined every kind of scenario, anything that could go wrong. And this was like a total deja vu, because this happened. We had the trip of a lifetime planned for my 50th birthday in 2020, and we were leaving March 14th. March 14th, the whole world got shut down because of COVID. So it was like deja vu completely. And then too, if we would have left, we would have been stuck on some Caribbean island or some crazy place. We wouldn't have been able to get home. So now I'm thinking, I'm stuck in the Middle East. I can't get home. So we canceled everything. Next morning, I get up and my husband's like, nothing happened. They opened the airfields. That's it. Iran's done. They're finished, and Israel's not going to retaliate. And, we're done. And I'm like, why did I do that? So I'm debating, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And I decided, forget it. I'm going to rebook my trip. I ended up paying double and triple for my flight there. I know, last minute, because everyone else did the same. They canceled, they rebooked. So I said, I don't care. I'm going the next day. So on Monday, I go, I'm all enthusiastic, packed, ready to go. I get on the flight. I'm all happy. I'm listening to my hypnosis. I'm chilled. I couldn't take anything with me, like nothing to help me relax, because everything's banned in Qatar. Sometimes I'll take like half a Xanax to fly. That helps me so much. You cannot take anything with you. So that wasn't even an option. So I have like this middle seat and I have no windows. I have like the wall next to me on both sides. So I have no idea what's going on. I can't see out. And we get to Qatar and we're supposed to land in Doha, and the plane starts circling and circling and circling. And I see that we have like 6 minutes to land. So I close my eyes. I try to meditate. I'm chilled. An hour later, we're still circling. We're still circling. And the plane's just all over the place. There's thunders, there's lightning, everything that you can imagine in your worst nightmare. We were in the middle of a sandstorm. If anybody saw what was happening in Dubai in April, then you'll know what I'm talking about. It was like hell out there. They couldn't see, they couldn't land. So here I am in this plane. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna die. It was all my nightmares, everything that you fear, you kind of attract to yourself. So it was like a landing from hell. But I survived. I made it. But it was quite an
so there's my first foray here into how did you do that. So your worst nightmare, and you are totally prepared beforehand, right? But this comes totally out of the blue, and it knocks all of your did it knock all of your strategies out of your head, or did you find a strategy that helped you just stay calm enough?
I just closed my eyes. I didn't open my eyes at all. And I just kept focusing. I kept concentrating on the big white bubble around us and around the plane that was protecting us. And I think the fact that I didn't really know what was happening outside was actually much better, because I didn't know until we landed how bad the situation was. So because of that, I got lucky that there were no seats by the windows, because I would have taken a window seat. So I got very lucky that I couldn't see what was happening. But I think the universe works like this. Like, just when you think you have it figured out, they just kind of throw you a curve. When you're getting a bit comfortable, it's like, I'm so chilled, I can fly. And then it's, oh yeah, okay, let's see this, right? Here's World War III, here's the sandstorm, what else can go wrong?
And so going back, How was the flight then, having gone through this ordeal?
Like,
How was it?
when we landed, I called my family. I said, I'm not coming home and I'm never flying again. So I will always only travel inside Spain where I can drive. And, I will get home by plane, or I mean, not plane, by boat, or I don't know how I'm going to get home, but I'll see you guys whenever I see you. I'm not getting on a plane again. But then, it's like giving birth. And then after a while, you kind of get over it. So by the time,
pain, yeah.
so by the time I was coming back, I was kind of okay. The landing was still rough, but I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen twice in a row. So I was, I tried to be chilled, and it was fine. And I continued with the hypnosis. But then, the adventure, of course, continued, because the next day they were expecting the same kind of storm that like devastated Dubai. And because there's no drainage or anything in Qatar, because there's no rain, everything would get flooded. So, there were police everywhere. They were shutting the underpasses. They were closing the roads. They were closing the malls, because everyone was in a state of panic. The schools were closed. Everything was closed. This was my first day there. So I ended up pretty much just going back to my hotels, being scared to leave, because I didn't know what was happening out there. And, if you go to a mall and you can't get back to the hotel, then what happens next, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So it was an interesting beginning to it all.
Wow. And so, like, you're right. It's like the universe threw everything at you. I don't really think the universe is sadistic, but that's life on this planet. That's life on this planet anyway. You're going to be bound. But it's kind of like when you decide that I'm going to overcome my fears. Like, this is a really almost militaristic way of getting over your fears. Like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. No, I felt like I had to face all my fears. Like I had to
all at once.
Yes.
And get them right off your plate.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
And the same thing, with driving. Like, I'm totally paranoid with getting in the car with anyone. So on that day when everything started flooding and people were getting sent out of the mall, and I jumped in a taxi, and this guy standing there, pretty scary looking guy with like red eyes, bloodshot red eyes. And he was the only taxi there. So I get in the car with him, and he starts driving like a maniac. And he stops at the red light and he's fallen asleep. And I'm like, hey, buddy, wake up, wake up. So he wakes up, and we're driving again. And in Doha, there are like 14-lane highways inside the city. And he's driving, and he's falling asleep while he's driving like 120 kilometers an hour. And his eyes are just shutting, his eyes go. And I'm like, wake up. And I'm screaming at this guy, because I'm like, we're going to die. So this was the second day.
Wow.
And then I had like interesting things with, getting in an Uber that wasn't actually an Uber, and a stranger picking me up, situations like that. Another driver with the phone, playing on the phone, eating a sandwich, drinking his tea, and driving 150 kilometers an hour. And so it was like, everything came at me. All my fears, I had to just face it head on.
Okay, so how did you do that? Like, were you focused on your breathing? Did you keep your eyes closed? Like, what did you fall back on when you were in these crazy situations?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of went into like survival mode, and just trying to take control of the situation as much as possible. And then after that, what I did was I just organized cars through the hotel, and I paid extra. Or there was like a VIP Uber, and I would get that and pay the extra money so that I have a more normal driver. And I would get in the car and just right away say, look, I'm a very nervous passenger. Please drive nicely, and I like scared them from the beginning because they didn't want a bad review. So after that, I just kind of took control of the situation, and things slowed down a little bit. But also like in Qatar, you have to worry about, because you have to cover up. You can't really walk around as we would in Europe, for example, or in America, Canada. So we had to cover our shoulders, we had to cover our knees. I wasn't sure, like walking around by myself on the street, if I would be safe, what would happen. I was worried about being in the hotel by myself. I bought one of those things that you put under the door where the alarm goes off if somebody would try to open it from the outside. So I was trying to be prepared for any kind of situation. But luckily for me, Qatar is like the safest country in the world. And it was so incredible to experience that, like that kind of safety, where you can, leave your handbag in the bathroom stall on the counter and go do your business, and no one's going to touch it. or in the taxi.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Or
Yeah.
for example, I did that photo shoot. That was another thing that I've been dreaming of doing for a long time, is to go out in the desert and get the flying dress, red dress, and do a photo shoot in the desert. So that was another great experience.
And I'm going to interrupt you here, because if anybody wants to see that amazing photo, you have to go to Lynn's Instagram account at the Aging Games, and that photo will jump out at you. And it is amazing of her just in this flowing, amazing, brilliant red dress in the middle of the desert on a sand dune. Like,
it was so
oh my
cool.
God.
And I had to
God.
step out of my comfort zone as well. I'm not 20 years old trying to be a model or anything like that. But, I wanted to put myself out there and do things that make me uncomfortable, like this podcast or my YouTube channel, or all of these things. I'm really trying to, as I'm getting older, I'm 54 now, I'm trying to push myself out of my comfort zone and try to do things that challenge me, because I think there's no growth without challenging yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So going in the desert was like this really cool experience. And I had an amazing makeup artist, and she was so cool. And we like really vibed, and she helped me and she dressed me and everything. And it was just amazing. And during sunset, a pack of wild dogs came like almost to the shoot, like walking over the dunes. And it was just so surreal. It was really cool. So it was a nice experience. And it's going to be nice to have those photos to look back on, and all the different cool outfits and everything. So I thought, that was like that made the trip all worthwhile, just that in itself. So when we were driving back from the desert, we stopped in the middle of nowhere at a gas station. And the photographer and his assistant, they went to get some sandwiches. And Jenny, my makeup artist, she went into the gas station. I went and had to go pee. And everybody was gone. So I get back to the car. The car's engine is on, at the gas station in the middle of the desert. The car engine is on. The car is empty. And we all have our bags, our passports, our money, everything's inside the car, and nobody will touch it. Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
Like, people will turn their car on and leave it running for an hour while they go have lunch at the restaurant just to keep it cool, and nobody will steal your car. Like, I've never been to a place like this.
No, that's amazing.
It's
Wow.
absolutely amazing. So it was really cool to see that. And also, Qatar is super sterile. Everything is clean. It is so spotless. At one point, I was putting a Band-Aid on my foot, a little bit of blisters, and a paper went flying from my Band-Aid. And there was a guy there within a second with the broom and the thing, sweeping it up that instant. And this was in the souk, and in other Arabic countries, like I've been to Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia, and the souks are pretty dirty places. You want to wear like high shoes because there's questionable liquid flowing around and stuff. Well, the souk here was so clean and sterile, everything perfect. When you go in the bathroom, there's always somebody standing there. The second you step out of the stall, someone jumps in and cleans it. So you're always on a clean toilet.
They must have like capital punishment for littering, right?
Yeah, I was asking that. I said, even for stealing. And then one person said, oh, they'll chop off your hand. And I go, okay, but have you seen anybody with their hands chopped off? And she's like, no, I've never seen anyone like that. I go, do they really do that? Or is it enough that, that they're like, it's only like 15% Qatari people living there, and the other 85% are people from India, from Philippines, from all Africa, from all different countries. And they're basically providing the service for this 15%, which is pretty insane. But because they're making good money, nobody wants to risk getting deported. And I think they're very strict with everything. So I had like all these different feelings being there, because everything was perfect, but everything was like too perfect, if you know what I mean. Like, I went to the old port. It was called the old port. The old port was built 2 years ago for FIFA. So it's built like this old style, but it's perfect. It's immaculate, and so it was beautiful. Architecturally speaking, it was beautiful. Just like everything else was beautiful. Everything was brand new and beautiful and spotless, but everything was devoid of a soul. Like, I live in Europe, so there's so much culture, there's so much history, these old buildings, the little winding roads and everything. If the walls could talk, the castles, it's such a different vibe.
Yeah, it's fertile with life.
Yes. And there, Lucille, you won't believe this. I didn't see a single dog, not one dog in a whole week. except for the pack of dogs. But inside the city, no dogs at all. I didn't see any, there were no insects. I didn't see any bugs. There were no butterflies. There were no bees, no mosquitoes, no flies, nothing. There are no
Geez.
stars. There are no stars in the sky. And I asked the guy that took us out into the desert, and I said, where are the stars? It was pitch dark and there was no, he says, we have no stars. I'm like, what? And he says, no, because of the geography. I go, how does that even make sense? So there are no stars. And it's like, I'm in the Truman Show. So then I go, okay, my plane crashed and I ended up in some kind of weird utopia. This is the afterlife because something is very, very wrong here.
Wow,
Isn't that
yes.
strange? Guys, if you're
Yeah.
watching this, wherever you live, tell me if you don't have stars where you live. And when I searched online, they said it's the light pollution. I'm like, okay, I can understand the light pollution in Doha, but when you're out in the desert.
That's right. That's pretty strange. Very.
So that made me question a lot of things. So it was just it was like a utopia, which is, and they're doing like the 50-minute cities and all of that stuff where you can walk everywhere. And, we know the whole agenda. And you would think that this country would be outside of the agenda because, they have all this money and they have all this influence. And they could say, well, we're not following that agenda, but everyone's following the same agenda, apparently. So that was a little bit sad to see. It was just so incredible to experience this. And then I realized that I would not trade, the freedoms that we have and the life that we have for more safety. Because it's nice to have that safety. It's nice to walk around in a park by yourself as a woman alone at night. It's really nice to have that. But I would not change my life and all the things that we have here to have more safety, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to have a life. You do not want sterility. I mean, to full and rich life, not sterile.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And I understand how surreal it must be to be there and not even an insect. Oh my goodness.
And my friend came and joined me for the last 3 days. So we spent that together and we flew back together. And so the last 3 days were full on because this girl's got energy like my puppy has. Like she just doesn't stop. She arrived at 7 a.m. in the morning and she's like, oh, she didn't sleep all night. She's like, okay, let's go, 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 go. So we went on like kayaking adventures into the mangroves, which was amazing. Watching the sunset from there was absolutely beautiful. And we did so many crazy things and went to these beautiful brunches. The brunches there are out of this world. I have videos about this, so you guys can check out my channel on YouTube, The Aging Games. The buffets were incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And it's like 30, 40 bucks and all you can eat, but every kind of food imaginable. And the service is amazing. The service was almost overwhelming. Like in one place, I had a Caesar salad, the chicken Caesar by myself. And they asked me like 18 times if my Caesar salad is okay, Whereas in Spain, they will never even ask you if your food's okay. It's the opposite of good service. But then I realized that you can also have too much of a good service as well, because they're so attentive and they're so nice and they're so in your face all the time. Or also the bathrooms, like I said, if you try to go like in a mall or anywhere, every public bathroom, and you don't tip these people, they are just there to clean. And when we were coming back, I thought, okay, well, it was a really early flight. I said, I'll try to go to the bathroom at the airport. So we went into the VIP lounge. I had some breakfast and everything. I said, I was praying that there would be nobody in the bathroom so I could go before I get on the plane. And I went into the bathroom. 3 young girls are standing there waiting to clean my stall. 3 of them, not even 1, 3. And they stand like right next to your stall. How do you go to the bathroom like that?
Wow.
So your privacy is gone, absolutely gone. And as far as like surveillance, like every single lamppost would have like 6 cameras all the way around. So they fingerprint you as you come in, they take your retina scan, and they are watching you everywhere all the time.
Oh, it is a prison. That's for sure.
It's a large prison. It's a large prison. And the people that live there, they are so wealthy. So the locals don't have to work. They are born into this richness. They like you see the Qatari women walking around and their maid is walking behind them with their little Fendi bag because they can't even carry their Fendi bags. Or they say if they want a glass, they're standing in their kitchen and the glass is right there, they call the maid to give them the glass. Like they will not do anything. If they go to a shop, they don't get out of the car. They honk their horn and the shopkeeper comes out and asks you what you want and brings it to the car. Same with like takeaway food and everything. They park in front, they honk, they come out and they serve them. They don't get out of the car. They don't walk. They don't do anything. They don't lift a finger. So imagine being a child, being born into this, where everything is given and you never have to work for anything and you never have to challenge yourself. You never have to, everything's just a given. But what kind of a society is that? How do you learn from that? How do you evolve?
Yeah. How do you grow? You just, what, it's you remain stale and stagnant for your entire life?
Exactly.
Oh, that's very
because,
sad.
you know, we all dream of riches. Like, oh my God, I want like 10 Lamborghinis in my garage and I want all of this. Is this utopia? Is this happiness? Or if you go to like some poor African country and you've got these kids playing with like water bottles, will they be happier than the Qatari children who have everything?
Everything. Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
And it is very interesting. And I'm wondering if they are open about the rates of depression or anxiety or mental illness, because a lot of Arabic countries claim that there is no mental illness or no addictions.
I think a lot of things get swept under the rug, and I think things are not brought out to the surface. But I did find it really interesting that all of the, you know, like Xanax, Valium, all of these things are completely banned in the country. Isn't that interesting? So you can't even take it with you, even if you're in transit, you can't have them with you.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's, are they protecting the population, or is that, I don't know, like, is that a good thing or not a good thing that even those things are controlled? You know, there's no alcohol at all.
Yes, right.
The alcohol is only allowed in the hotels and the resorts. But I hear, you know, they all say they're not drinking, but they're all actually drinking. So
sure. Yes,
you know,
I've heard that too.
so all the things that are forbidden, people are doing because their life is just so good that you don't know. You have to kind of break out of that. You have to try to break the rules. You have to do something different. After this video, I'm going to be banned from Qatar. I'll never be able to go back. I'm going to be on the blacklist. No, I love the country. It's beautiful and the people are great. No, I'm just thinking, like, I don't know. I just had so many thoughts. Like every night I would sit down and I would just analyze everything, because ask someone, okay, where do you want to be born in your next life? Here's Qatar, where everything's made of gold and everything sparkles and everything's perfect and everything's beautiful. Or you could be born in India, where, you know, in the slums of India. Which one would you choose? Everybody would choose Qatar. But are they happier in the end?
Yeah, and the other thing is, do they have the freedom to pursue their happiness, which is another thing, right?
Yeah.
Because if you are born into such a restricted society, you know, can you even strive for anything there? Are you able to strive? Because that's the thing that I agree with you. I would want to be always creating something, striving for something, doing something that gave me joy, taking chances, you know, and if you're not even allowed to do that, like that's also, I mean, you can have all the riches and that's fabulous, but if you don't have the freedom to pursue your happiness, or to develop yourself, I mean, what's it all worth, right? Yeah. So I appreciate your feedback on that, because I think that is true of a number of different countries. And like, but other countries, like for example, Singapore, people do work.
Yeah.
They're very restricted.
No, Singapore is very different. Yes.
Yeah.
They're also well off, but everybody works. Or Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland for 8 years. And Switzerland, they also have a very good life and high wages and everything else. But suicide is very rampant in Switzerland. We live near a dam where they filmed GoldenEye, James Bond, and there was this huge dam and people were jumping off all the time.
Oh.
So, you know, it blew my mind there too. It's like, my God, you guys have it all. You've got the best country in the world. Life is amazing here. And then you've got the suicides. There were like swinger clubs all over the place. People were cheating on each other all over the place. So what happens to humans when the conditions are too good? You know, like the fall of Rome, when everything things get more and more perverse and things get more and more out of hand, because life is so good that you just have to kind of destroy everything around you, or I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
understand it.
Well, it's a fascinating topic. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
do a topic like that for one of our episodes.
Yeah, we should. That
And
was
so your adventures, so did you feel that you accomplished what you set out, that you wanted to just smash through all your fears?
yes.
Did you feel you accomplished it?
I feel I did, and I feel like I'm very comfortable to travel alone again. And I think
Excellent.
that's really good because it's hard for me
Yeah.
to always be trying to find someone. My husband doesn't want to travel anymore. And so I'm looking for I'm lucky my parents are always happy to travel with me. And I have friends and cousins who would travel. But, ultimately, it's nice to be able to just think, okay, I'm going to go and I'm okay on my own. And I'm okay
Yeah.
to walk around alone. I'm okay to sit in a restaurant, lie on the beach alone, and do my own thing. And it was actually really nice. And I did the Camino de Santiago last October, and I walked with my parents, but I spent a lot of days walking alone. And that's also something I've never did before. I never hiked alone before. So even in preparation for the Camino, I started hiking by myself. And it's a really nice feeling. So if people have never
Mm.
done that, you need to go out there and do that in a safe place, of course. But I never realized how nice that is, just to be alone
Yeah.
with your thoughts. Because I always
Mhm.
only hiked, went in the woods, always with other people. But now I just love that feeling of just being alone and going at my own pace and doing my own thing. And it was wonderful to walk those days alone on the Camino as well. So
Wonderful.
I think it's a
Yeah.
really nice feeling. And
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, sometimes you have to get into your 50s to realize those things, that you don't
Mhm.
always need the company of other people. Sometimes you're okay just by yourself. And
Yeah.
and being alone shouldn't stop you from doing the things you love to do. Because a lot of times that's the excuse. Well, I'd love to go to restaurants more, but I don't have anyone to go with. Or I'd love to go to the movies, but I have no one to go with, so I'm not going. But maybe it's okay to sit in the movies by yourself or in a restaurant
Oh,
or
I agree. I agree thoroughly. And you're giving yourself the gift of independence.
yeah, yeah,
Again, you're not in a prison of, I don't have a friend to go with me. I don't have this. I don't
yeah,
have that. You're breaking free, and you are totally uh, at the whim of your own desires, which is
mhm,
wonderful. You do
yeah,
not have to deprive yourself of anything just because you're
no.
doing it alone. So that's wonderful. So you've really enriched your life, right?
Well, I feel like the
By
clock
doing.
is ticking, and
Mhm.
we never know what's going to happen. Like when we got shut down for, like 3, 4 years, we couldn't travel at all. And I mean, that can happen anytime, anywhere. And I
Right.
just don't, I feel like I don't want to miss out on anything. There's so many
Mhm.
places I still want to see. And ultimately, my happiest times are my travel times. I don't want to stop.
Sure. Of course not. Of course not. And I don't think it is in anyone's best interests, really, for us to stop being free, for us
Yeah.
to stop even, you know, um, to even think that, oh, well, I'm a certain age and now I have to restrict myself,
Mhm.
because you're only going to age and die faster,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if you really think about what's in your heart of hearts, for most of us, it's that we want to keep thriving for as long as we can,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And adventures, new adventures, guys, go out there and go on new
Adventures.
adventures. I mean, I hope I inspired you to do that. Don't
Yes.
let anything
Yes.
or anyone stop you. Go see the world, experience different cultures. I mean, how cool is that when you get to go and see a completely different culture and just immerse yourself in that and talk to the locals and get all the information, and it was absolutely fascinating. And had I not been alone, maybe if I was with my husband, all these people would not have been so open to talk to me and tell me all
Exactly.
the things that I learned.
Exactly.
So that was
Yes.
pretty cool that I got to speak with all these locals and get all the scoop of what's going on and how the people live and everything else. And I think it was absolutely amazing, life-changingly amazing.
Well, bravo for you.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's wonderful. It's a great gift you've given yourself, but also that you can share your stories and inspire other people who, maybe in their heart of hearts, they want to do something a little adventurous, but now they're afraid. And you can
No,
be there to, as a shining light inspiring people to really push past their fears. Yeah. So it's wonderful. Good for you.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you.
Mhm.
So get the red dress, guys. Go in the desert, take some photos.
Desert.
Go nuts.
Absolutely.
Enjoy
Yeah.
your
Go nuts.
life. It's too short. Have fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for sharing that
My
gift
pleasure.
of the adventures you've had. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching us. And we so enjoy doing these podcasts. We'd love to just continue doing them forever. And so
Yeah.
we invite you to comment, like, share, subscribe, so that we can keep doing it and having loads of fun doing that as we're helping you.
Absolutely, guys.
So-
Thank you so much for watching and for listening to my crazy adventures. I will link below my YouTube video where it's just about my Qatari adventure, so you can watch that as well if you want to get more information about this. And guys, in the next episode, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to this one. We're going to do like a retro Dear Abby episode where we're going to take some old Dear Abby questions, and Dr. Lucille and I are going to address them. And there are going to be some really interesting ones, things that people would never ask today, about like spanking your wife and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and not spanking in a happy, and in that kind of way, but in a different way, punishment. So we'll be talking about that. You guys want to tune in for that one. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Please be aware that Lynn and I are here to provide insights, advice, stories that are for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of our content should be considered to be personal, medical, or mental health therapy. If you are experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, please consult the appropriate healthcare specialist. We are here to provide the best possible content in an atmosphere of positive conversation and personal growth.